Beautiful comparative advantage by myself and I. We got about three key takeaways that we're going to want. A good does not need to be absolutely competitive to still provide an impetus to benefit from trade. And we're going to distinguish between the absolute advantage and the competitive advantage, see kind of the differences. And we're going to look at why trade is good for everybody. So a fundamental concept we need to understand is opportunity cost. That is to say, for everything that you produce, you could have produced something else, and we're going to look at exactly what those ratios are. So, for example, if for every one muffin you bake, you can bake two breadsticks, the opportunity cost of one muffin is going to be those two breadsticks, and vice versa. So we're going to make a little bit of a distinguishing piece between absolute and comparative advantage. So an absolute advantage, as you can see with this example here, Jimmy that can make 50 cars and 50 pounds of wheat an hour has an absolute advantage over Jeremy that can make 10 cars and 10 pounds of wheat, but ultimately they have the same comparative advantage because both are one-to-one ratios. Carlos can make 10 cars in a year, but he can only grow about 5 pounds of wheat. And Wheatloaf can make 5 cars a year, but he's really good at making wheat at about 10 pounds a year. So both of them want an equal amount of each goods, or as many goods of each as possible. So we're going to look at what happens when they don't train. As you can see here, we're stat at about 5 wheat for Wheatloaf, about 5 cars for Carlos, and then both of them get 2.5 of the things they're not very good at. If they take a second to trade, they can both specialize. So Wheatloaves can just grow only wheat, and Carlos can make only cars. And because they're really good at that and they trade the excess, they're both better off and they're both at 5 of each item. Much better for the both of them. The reason we see this is because it comes down to the fact that they have inverse and different comparative advantages. One person is really good at making one thing, and the other is really good at making the other. And because they have inverse opportunity costs, they can choose to produce the thing that has the lowest opportunity cost and then trade the difference. It's efficient to do it. Every second they spend on doing something they're not very good at is 1 second that it's very inefficient. A little bit of a harder example, we're going to be looking at Jeremiah can produce 20 cars in a year or 30 pounds of wheat, and Jeremini can produce 10 cars in a year or 5 pounds of wheat in a year. Jeremiah has the absolute advantage in both goods, but again, if you look past the absolute advantage and look at the relative comparative advantage, they both have inverse comparative advantages. Um, so that's just what this is explaining here. If they don't do trade, as you can see, there's a big disparity between them, but ultimately, if they do trade, they're better in both fronts. So this is just going through a little bit of the comparative advantages here, and then one real world example with America and Europe. Thank you very much.